Hello everybody, Michael the Librarian of Magic, back here finding and cataloging the magic and pointing you to it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy holiday season. Sorry that this video has been delayed just a little bit because of the holiday season and Christmas falling in the middle of the week and all that good stuff. But I'm finally here to give my reaction and impressions of all the Disney Plus original content for Friday the 20th of December and all of the stuff that came out on that day. I'll just give you all my thoughts and impressions straight away. And as always, The Mandalorian will get its own video separately from this. And also, Disney Plus released this week another original film called Togo, The Untold True Story, which is about dog sledding, I guess, and it stars Willem Dafoe. I'll also give its own separate little video when I get around to, viewing that and all that stuff. So until then, this will just be the rest of the original shows as usual. So I'm just going to jump straight away to it. Got my notebook as always, and we'll just jump right in. So this week, Disney has released a new show to their original content lineup called Pick of the Litter, which is sort of a reality animal-based show in which people are raising guide dogs for the blind, and there's an organization called Guide Dogs for the Blind that makes sure that all these dogs are up to snuff. And the way that it apparently works is when these dogs are puppies, they go live with various families or various dog trainers, puppy trainer people that are just regular people. And I'm not 100% sure, it was unclear in the episode if those people are volunteering for Guide Dogs for the Blind, if they have a paid relationship with them, or how all that works, I'm not sure. But they have some sort of relationship with the organization, and they raise the dogs from when they're puppies, and then when they get to a certain age or certain abilities, as they're learning basic skills like, how to get potty trained and how to, not be so rambunctious or not, be good around other dogs, other people, how to walk through busy streets, etc., etc. They eventually get evaluated to go through an even more intensive training with Guide Dogs for the Blind to go through the specific intense training to be a guide dog. But they need to pass some basic behavioral skills first. And if they don't, they get what's called a career change in the parlance of these people, in which the dogs just aren't up to snuff. They have some challenges that they can't overcome, and so they get adopted by different families or do other work or whatever. They can't become guide dogs. So this episode, and I guess this series, is sort of following around 6 different dogs: Tartan, Tulane, Pacino, Raffi, Paco, and Amana. In their quest to become guide dogs and the people who train them. And that's basically what this is about. You're sort of getting a feel for these dogs and their caretakers. And then this episode takes place right before each one of these 6 dogs is going to be evaluated for their final hurdle before they can get accepted into the intensive Guide Dogs for the Blind training. They just have to pass their final basic evaluation. They have to go through several evaluation steps, and this episode chronicles the final evaluation. And basically, all of the dogs pass pretty much with flying colors without any problems, except for Paco, which the episode leaves us on a cliffhanger, which was sort of it was sort of a corny moment. I don't know if I like the way they handled it. So they handled it sort of as the way you would in a traditional reality show, where it's like when you don't know whether or not this dog's going to pass his evaluation or not. But it was a really unnecessarily dramatic. I think it felt kind of weird to me in that way. Basically, Paco, in the middle of his evaluation, has to go poo and goes in the middle of the sidewalk, which you're not supposed to do if you're a guide dog. And the caretakers are really surprised by it. They think, oh, he hasn't done that. We've trained him not to do that. It's been a year since he's whatever. And maybe he was just nervous in the situation or something, but that's what happens. And then the evaluator says, well, we're going to have to call our people and decide whether or not he passes or not, because if this is an extenuating circumstance, whatever. And that's the cliffhanger of the episode. Da-da-da-da, will Paco make it or not? The rest of the dogs are in, and Paco might not be. Anyway, that's what happens. It's an okay show if you're a dog lover, or if you're kind of interested to see what goes into training guide dogs. That aspect of it is really interesting and really cool. But they can take the drama down a notch. I don't think that's really necessary. It's more of an interest piece than it is a reality, drama. It doesn't need a gut punch or anything. It's just about guide dogs. So anyway, that's leader of the pack, pick of the litter is what it's called, not leader of the pack. So that's pick of the litter. Not my favorite original show so far, but it's only had one episode. Maybe it'll get more interesting. I do want all these dogs to succeed, so I am rooting for the dogs. I don't know, maybe that's cool. And it is kind of a rare, impressive thing for a dog to become a guide dog. They did say that they do 800 dogs in their training program a year, and only 300 of those ever become guide dogs. So it is sort of a rare thing for a dog to be able to have what it takes to do that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep watching it and see if I become more interested in it or not. Forky asked a question this week. He wants to know, what is a leader? And he has Dolly, the doll from Toy Story 4, voiced by Bonnie Hunt. And he tries to explain to her what a leader is, but she's not very good at leading him, even though she considers herself the self-styled leader of the toys. Forky is pretty rebellious, and, hilarity ensues. The series is great as always. Great little shorts, always good for a laugh. Forky asked a question. The Marvel Hero Project this time around was called The Dazzling Lorelei, about a young girl obviously named Lorelei from Duncannon, Pennsylvania. She was born with a congenital heart defect in which she's missing the left side of her heart. So she only has half a heart. And she's gone through a whole bunch of open heart surgeries in her young life. She just turned 14 in the episode, but she's gone through, I think 3 or 4 open heart surgeries. And during the process of doing that when she was younger, one thing I learned in this episode that I didn't know is when people go through open heart surgery, no matter what age you're in, as you're healing, it can be very difficult to take in deep breaths and everything, because it can be very painful in your chest and everything like that. But if you hug a pillow really tightly, it can alleviate some of that pain and make it a little bit easier to take in breaths during the healing process and that sort of thing. But when she was young, they gave her, a pillow in the hospital, and it was much too big for her, and she realized that there are a lot of kids out there like her that may need something more their size, and so she took up sewing and decided to start sewing these little heart-shaped pillows that for smaller people that they could hug while they were in the healing process. And that really took off. A lot of people noticed that. She's now, since then, has made like 50,000 pillows or something like that, and she's raised over $150,000 for various charities, including helping wounded veterans, and she just has a really big heart for helping all kinds of people in hospitals, and has received tons of letters and an outpouring of support. And she's just an impressive young person, just like the rest of the people featured on the show. She gets inducted into the Marvel Hero Project, and her story is very inspiring and impressive. And I hope that she continues to thrive. And she's already left her mark. She's already left her legacy. But I hope that she keeps going on, because she's a remarkable person. Disney Family Sundays, the craft this week is a Mickey-shaped wreath for the holidays, and they show you how to use this glitter yarn or tinsel yarn to make it green and decorate it with little light bulbs and everything. And this is one that I would probably actually do. My wife and I are Christmassy holiday people, and this seemed like a really fun craft. It tells you everything, as always, that you need to do it. So if you want to make a Mickey-shaped looking wreath and decorate it up with your loved ones or just for yourself, this is a fun one, I think, to be able to do for the holidays. In High School Musical, the series, 2 things happened this week. One, there was a special, sort of making of special, cleverly enough, called High School Musical, the Special. And it was sort of like a 25-minute thing that was doing a behind the scenes about how they casted the actors and what it takes for them to dance and sing in the song, and about how they, we're learning from the original High School Musical and the original cast, and how some of those people have showed up to do cameos in these episodes and helped them out, and including Kenny Ortega, who directed the original movie trilogy. And one of the more impressive things that I saw in this special that sort of made it the 25 minutes worth watching is the two leads, Olivia and gosh, I can't remember their names, but the ones that play Nene, the leads Nene and Ricky in the series. They're already super impressive singers and dancers, just insanely talented people. But they're also extremely talented songwriters, and they wrote some original songs, original music for the show. That they show how they were writing the songs and how they went through the process of getting them chosen and selected to be on the show. And so it's just, I mean, they're insanely talented, those two. And everybody on the show is super duper talented, but I had no idea that they were also writing songs, and just impressive people. So if you want to see a little behind the scenes look, there's some cool stuff where if you're big fans of the original films, they show you nods to that, including the special features of, like, during the original movie, they gave Zac Efron a behind the scenes camera that he could use on his own called the Zac Cam. And for this show, they did the same thing with the kid that plays Ricky, and he has his own cam, and he goes around and does shenanigans the same way Zac Efron did, and they do like a side-by-side comparison. So if you've been into this show, if you're interested in it at all, and you want to see what goes into it to make it happen, and a little bit of fun stuff with the actors cutting up and stuff like that, check out the special. In this week's episode called Thanksgiving happens. It's Thanksgiving break, and the kids go their separate ways, but they decide to get together for a party at Ashlyn's house, the girl that plays Mrs. Darbus in the play, because her parents are going to Park City to some ski lodge, and they leave her alone, and so she has all of the drama nerds over for a party. Sort of just like and it's not like a rager or anything, it's just like a get-together after their Thanksgiving dinners are over, just to hang out. And they play this board game that Carlos, the choreographer kid, invented, that was based on the High School Musical, the movie, that he invented, and they play it, and it's really fun and silly. But there's some more heartfelt, emotional stuff in this episode as well. We find out that Ricky is still struggling with his mom being gone for the holiday, and that he hasn't contacted her because he's still feeling weird about his parents' separation and pending divorce and stuff. And then he tries to call her on Thanksgiving Day to wish her a happy Thanksgiving, and a man answers, and he finds out that she's got a new boyfriend that he didn't know anything about, and he gets all upset and spirals about that. And so there's some, deep emotion there. And then also we find out a little bit more about Gina. She's been connecting with Ricky, and she's not nearly as snarky or underhanded as she was in the beginning of the show. She's become quite a likable character. And this episode really makes her likable, in that we find out that she's basically just been in defensive mode everywhere she goes because she's moved so many times, and she doesn't want to make friends and make herself vulnerable anytime she goes anywhere. So that's why she's been so kind of mean. And she's moving around a lot because her mom works for FEMA, for disaster relief, and so whenever there's a new disaster, she has to go somewhere else. Anyway, she decides to go to the Thanksgiving party and really has a great time there and hits it off with everybody, and she's realizing she's making new friends. She gets invited for like a girls' sleepover after the party's over, and then she confesses to the the Office documentary cam style thing that this is the first sleepover she's ever been invited to in her life, and she's super excited and touched by that. But then she gets a phone call from her mom, and her mom tells her they're going to have to move again. She got a call from the field office in Washington, D.C., and they have to leave, and they have 10 days to stay where they are in Salt Lake. So she's obviously very upset and storms out, creates a big old scene. And there's also some great moments, too, in this episode where Nene is really trying to hold things together tightly. She's trying to be kind to Ricky and also to Gina at the same time, because things have been very weird with all of them, and she's trying to be really cool, but they're, they both kind of have moments where they get mad at her because she's trying to help, but the timing's bad and all that stuff. And also, some of the more fun stuff that happens in this episode that's not sort of super emotional is the robotics teacher, Mr. Mazzara, and Miss Jen both end up going back to the school to get some work done because they're not having great Thanksgivings, and they're able to actually help each other out. She's able to use her ballet and drama expertise to help him solve a robotics problem, and he's able to use his robotics expertise to help her solve a staging theater problem. And then they decide to watch Big Hero 6 with each other, just to make a Thanksgiving tradition and kind of bury the hatchet with each other because they've been a little adversarial. And then also Ashlyn, the girl whose house they went to the party for, is starting to have a inkling of a relationship with Big Red, the other kid, the other sidekick, Ricky's sidekick friend. And he starts, saying nice, charming things to her, and they really start hitting it off with each other in this episode. So that's kind of hinted at as well. And then the episode kind of ends on a cliffhanger, I guess you could say, in which it cuts to Mr. Mazzara and Miss Jen, and they're asleep in the teacher's lounge at the school, and they leave some of the robotics equipment plugged in the lab, and it starts sparking out, and then it starts a big fire while they're asleep, and then it cuts to credits. So I guess the school's gonna burn down or something. I have no idea, but a lot of stuff happens in this episode. I really enjoyed this one. For whatever this show is, whether you're a mega fan or not, it's well made for what it is. It's clever. The people involved are super talented. So what else can you ask for? I've actually been enjoying this one quite a bit. So this episode was really good. I think is one of the strongest ones. Had a nice little holiday flair to it as well. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next episode. And if you've been a fan of these so far, like I say, watch the special. In this week's episode of Encore, they track a cast who did a production of Godspell back in 1998 in Houston, Texas, at Eisenhower High. And this one is there's not very many issues of personal conflict or anything like that per se. There are a few things. There's one guy who's a Marine Corps veteran who is uncovering some stuff that he struggled with PTSD and things like that. But really, he just has his own personal moments, but they're not like people who don't get along with each other or have super weird drama that's getting in the way of the show or anything. In fact, these people really work hard at it and really work well together. They were the first musical theater production at their high school ever, and they didn't have much to work with when they put on Godspell back in the day. And this episode, they really give them a ton of stagecraft and costuming and everything like that, and it's really cool. Back when they did their original production, they just bought a bunch of cheap secondhand overalls and then decorated them with flowers and painted all over them, because Godspell takes place in the summer of love, the hippie era in the 60s. But in this production, they decided to recast Godspell into the Harlem Renaissance era in the Roaring 20s and give all these people awesome 1920s costumes, and they set it up in a big band club as a setting and all that, and it just looks really, really cool, and it's a really cool idea for a setting for Godspell. And then also these people are really, really talented, and the ones that are there's one guy in the entire cast that's not a talented singer, and everybody else is ridiculously talented at singing. And even the guy who's not a super talented singer is a really good stage personality, a really good stage persona, and so he sort of makes up for what he lacks really well, and they're all very courageous and outgoing. And honestly, this is one of not even just the most talented cast that I've seen so far on this show, but maybe some of the most talented performing theater people I've ever seen in my life that aren't professionals, that aren't getting paid to do this stuff for a living. Obviously, I've seen professionals that are, the most talented people on the planet, but these people are some of the most talented people I can ever remember seeing that aren't actually professionals, that aren't getting paid to do theater stuff. So they put on an amazing show. It's an amazing cast and just a really enjoyable episode. And if you like Godspell and you want to see it cast into a different setting, this one's really cool. The World According to Jeff Goldblum this week, he investigates the world of bicycles. his very adorable son Charlie is just learning to ride a bike, and that sort of inspires him to go check out the world of bikes and how they're built and the history of the different variations. He goes to a BMX park to learn about BMX and ride BMX a little bit, even though he doesn't have very much experience with that. He goes to a small independent company in Detroit where there's a guy who's making his own bicycles, and he also gets his own bicycle made from that place so he can go participate in something they have in Detroit called the Slow Ride or Slow Roll. That was sort of just started as like a community bike ride between like 5 or 10 people, and now there's like thousands of people that go to this like once a month or something like that. I forget how often, but they all like just ride down the streets, sort of like a big parade almost, and people come out of their houses and wave at them and stuff, and it's like a really cool community event thing that they do in Detroit. Um, and then yeah, he goes to like learn about the science of aerodynamics and bikes and all that from like this fancy lab that makes bicycles and tests them out and stuff. So he learns sort of about that world and why we like riding bikes and what makes them work. So it's not probably not the strongest episode of this show, but it's got great Jeff Goldblum moments, and if you've been liking this show so far, you'll continue to be interested in it. So that's what happens with The World According to Jeff Goldblum this week. And then finally, in the One Day at Disney shorts, there's a new short this week highlighting Sage Steele, who's one of the co-anchors on the 6 o'clock Sports Center on ESPN. And it's sort of an interesting little 5-minute piece that shows you what all goes into like what those people do, the on-air talent, what they do and how they work as journalists, and what they have to do to ramp up for their show every day, and the team that they work with, and how it's a collaborative effort and all that stuff, and what the people do at ESPN. So if you're interested in that, if you're a SportsCenter fan, you may find that to be somewhat interesting. So that's what happens with that. So those are all the original Disney originals for this week. Like I said, I'll come out with a separate video for The Mandalorian and also a separate one for the film Togo when I get around to watching that, so look forward to those. Thanks as always for watching these. I really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe, all that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on anything if you want to. Feel free. I will be coming back to soon with another video to talk about all the new original content that was released today, the 27th. I'm that behind, I know. But I'll be coming out with that soon with the new content and the Togo video and the Mandalorian videos. Look for those if that's what you're interested in. Until then, thanks as always for watching these. I hope you have a really excellent week. I hope it's magical. I hope you've had an excellent, excellent holiday season filled with family and warmth and peace and magic, as always. So, again, thanks for watching these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.